So, the dragons glide away, the timeline writes itself, and Legion Remix comes to an end. We freed Suramar, we got trampled underfoot by people with 100% versatility, barreling through dungeons, and we slayed a lot of demons. This video is my own little roundup of sorts, and also perhaps a little diary entry, just recording my thoughts about Legion Remix and my predictions for future instances of this playstyle. Let's begin. So let's break my little diary down into sections. So I'll start with the concept of a remix. So remixed expansions allow players to reach back in time and play through a story at a faster rate with enhanced abilities and quicker pumped up leveling. Pandaria was remixed previously and now it has just been Legion's turn. I thought Legion was a perfect choice for revisiting. It has memorable characters, a strong story, a big hitter bad guys, multiple worlds to explore that were well connected and related. The expansion was far enough in the past that it feels appropriate and fun to experience it again. Legion was actually the first full expansion that I battled through. I started WoW just sort of halfway through the previous one, so Legion was the first time I properly experienced a new launch of a new expansion, so that was thrilling, but I actually didn't complete it. I'm a slow casual player. I read every single quest text and book and item flavor text, and I don't play every day or anything, so it always takes me a while to work through them. But years later I came back and I just tried to do Suramar, I think, because I never actually reached it, and again I still didn't complete it. So this is actually my third attempt, and finally managed to work through the whole of Legion and Suramar, but still didn't manage to finish Argus, unfortunately. Anyway, fourth time's a charm. Maybe on my next attempt. Anyway, but that's one of the good things about WoW, is there's always so much to do. So this bullet point diary entry summary: love the concept of a remix, love the Legion, so big fan, combining the two. So next entry in my diary of things to consider now it's over is the dungeons and raids. So I am not a raider. I used to have an extremely bad internet connection and also deep anxiety about disappointing strangers on the internet, so I just never bothered. Even when I did improve my connection, I just didn't bother with raids or dungeons or anything. When follower dungeons came in, I did do them a few times, but rarely. In Remix, because your character levels so quickly and because you can easily create or earn very high level gear, I thought, well, maybe this is my chance. Maybe I can solo, or maybe I can finally be brave enough to join a run. Well, solo was a complete fail. That did not work. I naively thought maybe I can, level quickly enough that I can do one of these lower level dungeons solo. But obviously the mobs level with you, they scale in WoW. So every time I improved, they did. So it was merciless, and I was absolutely erased instantly. But anyway, I put on my big girl's blouse, and finally I waited. I just kept reading posts, forum posts about people saying they were getting kicked or from dungeon runs, or people saying they were being left behind, and I let it get to me. But then I finally went in, did a run, joined one, and breezed through. I had to sprint to keep up with everybody else, and then felt silly. So lesson learned for next time: just join in. Maybe once you've gained, halfway, once you get to like 40 or something, just join in. Do the raid finder, dungeon finder, whatever, and do it, because It's really fine. But anyway, summary. Happy I finally tried dungeons. Even did a couple of raids in Remix. So Remix is a good chance to try things you might believe you'd never do, and then you can carry that knowledge, the stuff that you learn and courage, into the main retail game. So that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully now onwards, I will, properly attempt to try dungeons and raids more often. Just a side note, actually, because I'd just never really done dungeons before, I didn't realise that you can get shut out of the boss if you are behind, and in Remix people are, one-shotting and going through so quickly, you can get left behind. You just get locked out. Sometimes it was literally a door, sometimes it's a wall of flames or whatever, and that's it. You just stand there staring and waiting until it's over. In one of the Karazhan that dungeon, there's a door at the end of a corridor, and that's it. And I kept getting trapped behind that door. It took me 4 or 5 attempts before I even managed to see the rest of the dungeon. I think it was only like the first boss, or maybe even the second, and I just could not get through. It was just a bit weird. I don't really know. There must be a reason why that's built into the design. Next entry, scaling. So really related to my previous point. Probably my only negative from Remix, or perhaps this applies more to WoW in general. Scaling relates to the fact that, as I just pointed out, mobs and enemies scale with you. So every zone keeps up with you, but it also means that sometimes you just don't notice any improvement in your circumstances. I felt this quite keenly in Remix. I did not start, mowing down enemies or whatever until literally a couple of weeks before the end. And I get that this is very difficult to balance. Some players were hitting level 80 and high versatility within a fortnight of starting Remix, and they just glide through the content. So I suppose if you don't scale properly, some people just won't face any resistance and won't enjoy it. And I know that there was a heroic mode, or a hard mode of Remix that allowed you to enter a version of the Legion zones that were a lot more difficult. I don't feel like that solves the problem of feeling as though you are not improving. It helps, doing that harder version helps the mobs, I suppose, hold out against you longer, but it doesn't necessarily assist with your sense of progression. So, summary point, I can sort of understand scaling, but I'm not really a massive fan. I thought Remix could be a chance to loosen this concept a bit. I remember one-shotting things in the distant past before scaling, and I want to be able to do that again. So those were. Let's talk specifically about newer things that are just for Remix. So the dragons, the Infinite Bazaar, NPCs, the introductory quest line, things like that. So the Infinite Bazaar, sort of a home base. It's great. Really, really good idea to have like a central base of operations. You can always see loads of other players, buy Remix specific mounts, Legion specific mounts, pets directly from the bazaar. Pick up infinite research quests, which were quests that you complete specific tasks for the dragons to earn more currency rewards whilst you're exploring. So, whilst you're doing your thing, collect a certain amount of herbs or go and slay a certain number of enemies using a particular spell or talent, stuff like that. There was a basic training one that needed a dungeon boss, which didn't feel very basic, and not great for solo players, but I mean, that's life. Moritari, she was my favourite. She was my favourite Remix NPC, chivying you along through quests. The starting quests, introductory quest line, they were fun, straightforward, clearly setting up the idea of the timeline versions. Didn't go on for too long, let you get stuck in quickly. I really liked that we all knew we were sort of like the idea of purposefully being picked up and put into the timeline to relive it and do research rather than just giving us a version of Legion to play through as if we were new. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed seeing so many other players concentrated in the bazaar, and I really liked how many services were there as well. That's my little summary. What about Legion itself? I think it's one of my favourite expansions. It's just Suramar is incredible. It's got a meaningful story, excellent characters, it's engaging. Argus, that was interesting, although I won't lie, Prophet Villain feel like occasionally a bit of a wet wipe, but whatever. Illidan, Ultimate Man, obviously. The myths and legends in Stormheim, layered on the Emerald Dream in Val'sharah that weaves in with the demons of Azuna, and then you've got the Tauren of the High Mountain fighting to maintain control, and layers upon layers, and then you have the Legion invasion. And whilst all these zones sound wildly different, I think they work together well. They don't feel so disparate that they make no sense to be in one place. I just really like it. The story here, every zone, and they've got this expansion they had uncompromising personalities. They stood out. Each of them were different. They made you pay attention, and it was just such a joy to explore again. So I was a big fan of that. Now, finally, what's next? This has just been a very quick whip through what I think about various parts of the remix, but where do we go from here? Do we have another? I mean, I think it does not make sense to do all the expansions in this way. Obviously, some of them are just too new, but also because now our storyline is departing and moving on from those early expansions, that it just feels like, I mean, if you do any after, I think maybe up to Battle for Azeroth, if you did any after that, it would just feel as though, it wouldn't feel as though you're reminiscing. It feels like you were reliving or rehashing something that's too similar to what you're doing now. I'm not sure. I suppose the next obvious one to do for me would be Wrath of the Lich King. A properly a classic in gaming in general. It's a extremely well-known antagonist, one that's popped up since then. Obviously the early experiences of Sylvanas, and it would just be fascinating to run through again. Perhaps we can have a break, and then maybe, I don't know, next year or in future years, once we've entered the next phase of WoW's history, go back to the beginning. But what do you think? Do you even want another remix? I mean, they have the new lore walking quests, which allow players to learn about previous events in WoW's history, so maybe Blizzard will just lean into them instead. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Who knows where the next remix will take us, because, as we all know by now, possibilities are infinite. I hope you enjoyed this quick run through Legion Remix, and that's it from me. I will see you when I see you. Bye bye.